Good afternoon from the nation's capital. I'm here with a friend of mine, Abstract Dreamer on Instagram, and we're going to have a conversation about her favorite subject, the power of dreams and what we can heal inside our bodies and explore during this 8 to 10 hours every night that we all should be enjoying much, much more. Abbie, how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on, Lehman.
For sure. Now, I've been really watching what you've been doing for about a year now, and probably like a year and a half ago, you came on my radar through our mutual friend Owen Hunt's um, group. I guess at the beginning it was his Discord group, and he taught trans surfing. So I think that would probably be a good point to start. Like, how did you come across Owen's stuff and get into transurfing?
I found Owen through transurfing. So I was, I don't know, just looking for something, a way to calm my own thoughts. And so I got into meditation and listening to some guided meditations. And another YouTuber kept talking about reality transurfing. And I was like, what the heck is this? I need to figure out what this is. So I started looking and I found the book. And each book, because there's 5 books, each book was $200. I was like, no way. There's no way I'm going to buy this stinking book. And I found another lady who read the books online. And then I found Owen, and his version of the audiobooks was fantastic. And through him, I was able to learn the concepts of reality transurfing. So, um, and then I reached out to him after, he came under heat through a person who I won't mention because of reality transurfing. And it just, I don't know, I transurfed it. I ended up meeting really awesome people that see the world like I do.
So once you had the tenets of transurfing integrated into yourself, uh, what was one of the situations that came about where you're like, okay, this has validity. This can help me. Did you have like a situation that you like saw the frame that you wanted in your head, or because I know that's one of the ways to use transurfing.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great manifesting tool, but what I realized was almost, when they say hindsight's 2020, I still was kind of in victim mode. Like, why does this keep happening to me? And all of a sudden, I was like, oh, that's why this is happening to me. Because one of the tenets, and probably the biggest tenet of transurfing, is balance. And if you are out of balance, nature will always find a way to balance itself. So if I put way too much importance on something, then you're going to have your feet knocked out from under you. And I was able to finally see, like, oh, so that's why this happened. That's why my marriage failed. I put it so high on a pedestal that it basically had no chance. I put so much excess importance on it. And just a lot of little things that taught me that the more that I came into balance and I stopped putting so much emotion into things, which sounds really almost dull, but it's not. It's really just the way that things should be. It helped me to see that I was more powerful than I realized.
So when you speak of balance, are you talking about head heart balance, where like you have the proper amount of emotion and a proper amount of intention to where you're like not too overly emotional about things, or you're not too logical about things, but you're right in that center point?
I had no balance there before. It was one or the other usually. It was and I leaned more towards thinking
Logic.
logically and putting more emphasis on that in my life. Yeah. So to realize that you have to have coordination of heart and mind. I was like, oh, this is important.
Right.
It always seemed messy to me. Feelings, emotions seemed messy. So it just didn't, it wasn't ever somewhere that I wanted to go. But when I did, it seemed like I did it in access as well. So it was always one or the other, not a coordination of both. But no, I just mean balance in general. When you sit there and worry and worry and worry, you're really good at making things happen because you have put so much importance on not having that outcome
Right. So
that it's going to give you what you want.
yeah. So it's like I think actually saw Owen post something recently where worry is a prayer for things you don't want, and
Yeah.
it's almost like an egregore of sorts. You're giving energy to a thing that doesn't care how it gets energy. It just wants the energy, very much like the pendulum idea. The pendulum
Hmm.
cares not what kind of energy it gets, just as long as it's being pushed. So, okay, so that's your transurfing beginnings. So, how did you transition into being interested into dream work?
I've always been a dreamer. I've always had really, really vivid dreams. I had friends who would say that I was weird because my dreams were so vivid and they dreamt in black and white. I didn't even realize some people only dream in black and white. And mine were always like these big old long sagas or other lives. And I knew that there was something more to it. But, the psychological descriptions, they were good. But at the same time, I felt like that wasn't the whole picture. And then dream dictionaries, it just felt like another pseudo spirituality thing. It didn't feel like it was really keying in on what was important in a dream or what that might actually symbolize, what your dream symbol symbolized. So um, it's just always been something that I do, but I don't know where the shift started, where I started putting more importance on it. I think one thing I've always joked about is that dreaming is my hobby. So napping is my hobby. And people find that really funny, but I do. I love to sleep. I like to sleep in. I like to hit my snooze button a couple times in the morning because I like to be in the dream state. So,
Right. So, I know about a year ago, a year and a couple of months ago, you had a reading done with a mutual friend of ours, Janine. And then I know that you, at that point, started looking at the symbols a little differently, and then you put your flavor on it. So, how did that kind of evolve?
um, I never really put a lot of emphasis because I read Carlos Castaneda and The Art of Dreaming and even transurfing. They teach lucid dreaming and they talk about how really you shouldn't be paying so much to the dream symbols as you should be the location of the dream and other things in the dream. So I didn't put a lot of emphasis on trying to figure out what the dream meant. I
Okay.
was very much more into lucid dreaming. So I met Janine through the Dream Lab, which was a group we were doing in Clubhouse, or she was hosting. And it was such a great outlet. And I guess that's kind of where this grew, is that I started realizing that I wanted to talk about my dreams, and it was great to talk about my dreams with other people who also dreamt. And Janine puts a lot more emphasis on the dream and what it means. But I guess the shift happened as a result of listening to Carlos Castaneda talk about how you have to do what he calls a recapitulation, which is pulling in your energy from all the sources where you've fragmented. So some people call it soul fragments, some people call it compartmentalization, but we all do it. And we all have like cut off pieces of ourself, and those pieces are still there and they want to reintegrate. So if we're not reintegrating those pieces, we have all this energy that's trapped. It's not moving. And your dreams I guess through the Dream Lab and talking with Janine, and then after our reading, it was just she taught me a couple of things actually. One, that places on your body in the dream correspond to different meridians as far as acupuncture or acupressure go. So there's usually a direct correspondence. Your body knows these points, even if your brain has never seen the acupressure charts before. Your body and your brain is definitely aware of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're dreaming of a specific body part or an area on your body or a dream character's body that might have an infection or it's hurt or something, every dream character is an aspect of you. So it's a signal to you that you have either an emotion or something that needs to come out. And usually that's what it is, because it could also be actual disease or physical pain. But most physical pain and most dis-ease comes from trapped emotions in the body. Okay. Energy and motion. It's not moving, it's stuck. So it's stagnant energy.
So you're using characters who are ourselves pushed out, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're aspects of ourselves, or even yourself in the dream. If you obtain a wound or something in the dreamscape, you're using that to come back to the physical reality and release traumas from the body, which can hold on to these in the form of blocked energy.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a pretty good summation?
Exactly. And if it's along the gallbladder meridian, it's not saying you have issues with your gallbladder. It's gallbladder. If you Google like gallbladder meridian emotions, it'll talk about anger. Kidney is usually fear or anxiety. So these different meridians have different emotions that are associated with them. So you can usually pinpoint what's coming up, either based on the theme of your dream or after you have the dream, what comes up the next day. It's almost immediate. It's like your body knows that some thought or some memory is going to come up that has stuck emotion in it, because any memory that you have. So everybody does this. I'm pretty sure you'll have those memories from like when you're a kid and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking of that time in third grade when I, did this and I told this kid something and I feel so guilty. Why am I feeling guilty? Why am I thinking about this now? And then you go, stop thinking about it. Stop thinking about it. Just stop. When you do that, you have an opportunity to pull that feeling out of it, that emotion out of the memory. And you're not doing it. You're pushing it back down and blocking yourself back up. So when you have these dreams, if it's an anger thing, if it's a gallbladder meridian, then the next day you might have an not embarrassing. It's usually going to be something that made you angry in the past. And it might be something very little, like when you were a little kid. And when you think about it, you feel that emotion, you feel that twinge. That's your cue. Okay, work on this right now. Let's go ahead and breathe it out, or whatever you have to do to get the anger out. And then you can go back and think about that same memory, and it doesn't cause any physical or mental pain.
So say I have a thought that comes up, and in this particular situation from my past, I was exhibiting anger to the utmost, and I want to release that energy since my body has brought it back up in order to give me the opportunity to clear it. What are a couple of different ways people can release that energy of whatever it is, anger, sadness, depression?
Anger specifically, it's really good to be alone, first of all. So if it comes back up and if you don't have the opportunity right now to deal with it, try to deal with it as quickly as you can. But I do a lot of my stuff in the car. So if I am thinking of a person and the thought comes up and I'm pissed off and it might be ancient history, but I have not worked the anger out of it, I will imagine that they're in front of me in my car and I just sit there and I cuss them out and say everything that I would like to say to them. That maybe it's not going to be productive to say to them in real life, or maybe I don't have the opportunity to actually say it.
Right.
But if I can actually just sit there and cuss the person out and just say everything I need to say, it actually does really release the emotion. And then I'm okay with just, I
letting
don't have
go.
to revisit it. Yep.
Yeah, I heard a long time ago, probably the early 90s, that people who, um, while we don't like to be around the people who just, when they get angry, they immediately cuss and get it out of them, they tend to live longer, for
That makes
whatever
sense.
reason. Yeah, because they're releasing it right then and there when it's at its fullest. So,
Hmm.
so there's the verbalization, getting it out in a way that doesn't hurt anybody, and it's helping you. Um, we also have a mutual friend, Tim Flynn, who teaches, and I believe you do too, like a form of tapping of release. Do you find that very effective?
I actually did an EMDR session with him. It was pretty neat. And yeah, he kind of helped me get to a bottom belief, and he would do have me go back and forth with shifting my eyes. So it has to do with being in a state close to rapid eye movement, like when you're sleeping, the REM stage. And he has you shift your eyes back and forth and then tap on your shoulders and stuff. But yeah, and even EFT tapping, it's all good for helping release emotion too, especially sadness, because I am a person who I was not in touch with my feminine side at all. So emotion
Right.
was not my strong point. Crying, I would go years without crying.
Right.
And I found just in this last year, since I started doing a lot of this work intensively, I don't know, for whatever reason, in my car is when I do a lot of my emotion releasing, because that with 5 kids, I'm absolutely alone, usually in my car sometimes, and that's when I can feel comfortable to vent it. So
Right.
I would find myself like pulling up to a red light, and all of a sudden, just this well of tears coming up, and I would have no idea where it was coming from.
Right.
I know memory that it's attached to, but it's like, why do I suddenly have this urge to cry? And then I would still have a hard time getting it started. So when you tap, it's almost like you're allowing it to come to the surface. It's almost like a bottle with bubbles in it. You keep tapping in it and the bubbles will come to the surface, but your
Yeah.
body's the same. And you're hitting those meridians. There's different meridians, and crossing the body also helps engage both sides of your brain. So
Right. Okay. So you've used dreaming to help release past traumas, but I also know that you find it incredibly important to start recognizing the environment and kind of making a mental map of. So, can you unpack that a little bit?
yeah. So this is kind of back to the concept that the setting of the dream is more important than the content. And it really just depends on what your goals are. But if you want to be a lucid dreamer, you need to be paying attention to where the dream is. My very first lucid dream was actually triggered because I had been in a building before. I was walking up this staircase, and I recognized the tile. And when I got to the top of the staircase, I recognized the light fixture, and I knew I'd been there before. So immediately I was like, oh, I'm dreaming. So the Dream Searchers, which is a book that we're getting ready to do a book club on. Yep. Great book. They talk about dream cartography, and I think they call it dream mapping, but if you try to Google dream mapping, you're not going to find what you're looking for. You're going to find like people's goal bulletin boards and stuff like that. And that's nothing. That's not what
Related.
we're even talking about. Yeah.
Right.
Um, so dream cartography, though, if you look at that, you will find a lot more, but it's trying to connect different settings of dreams and putting them on a map. So even if you can't connect them, that's fine, but it's trying to recall and maybe draw the different places that you dream, because they say that you dream about 15 places, and that's about average for a dreamer. And so you frequent the same places. And at first that was pretty true for me, but I feel like for me personally, my dream settings are all over the place.
So it's almost like there's like a base, like a beginner setting where like maybe you go to the 15 same places, but then as you become um, more acquainted with becoming lucid more rapidly in a dream, then it kind of opens up the landscapes or the choices of environments that you could work through.
I
Um,
think so because I've created a couple now. I
um,
created a whole school building. It took me a couple nights, but I just kept going back to the school. So I was going back to the same place, but
mhm.
every night I was expanding and adding onto the school building. Like the last day, I did the playground area, and I had surrounded the fence with big old obsidian boulders, and I
Right.
knew it was done. I was like, "This is done," and it was it was bizarre, but yeah, I've created a couple places in the dream space as well. So I think you start to do a lot more of that.
So I read somewhere in the last year that turn of the century witch covens and probably throughout time, they would actually meet in the dream space versus in physical reality with each other. And so that's a coordination of multiple people dreaming and going to a specific place. That's a pretty far out there concept for most people. Uh, Recently, have you created a space in a very specific point for a gathering?
Yes, I have. And the idea also, it came from the dream searchers who are inspired by Carlos Castaneda's work, I might add. But they, in the book, they have a place where they all meet up. And so I posed this to a group of who I call sisters, and we call each other sis stars because,
Right,
we're all star seeds. But
right,
we agreed that we would all try to meet up around Mount Shasta.
right.
So I was the first one to get lucid. We took a photograph and we superimposed an object each over the photograph. So that way we'd have an idea of where we were going to meet. And I was the first one to get lucid. And I, when I was lucid, I intended to go to Mount Shasta and find our space. And I flew in over, from an aerial view, and I saw snow and pine trees. And I was like, okay, I'm here. And I wasn't sure exactly where it was. I turned around on my back to Mount Shasta and was looking for our spot, and I couldn't find it. Then I turned back towards the mountain, and it was front and center. It was right there in front of the mountain. And I knew it was our spot because on the ground there was a stone circle. And it was, you know, um, white, like paving stones
Mhm.
with like blue, it looked like lapis lazuli layers and other red stones. So there's a white, red, white, and blue circle.
Mhm.
And it was just with a horseshoe shape around the circle. And when I got there, I realized the item that I picked, which was I wanted to put the element of water in there because I'm a Scorpio, a water sign. So I was like, oh, I'll put like a bird bath or something. But when I got there, I realized it was cold and it was dark. So I wanted to create a warm welcome area for my sisters since I was the first one there. So I took like this ornamental grass, it was like a zebra grass, and I told it to burn, and I made a fire, and I told the fire that it would stay there and it would stay contained to that spot. So I was there, I made the space, and it's there, it exists. So
Yeah. So that's probably the most interesting idea to me is that the intentionality of meeting somebody else in the dream space and interacting. And so you, in conjunction with Owen, are leading a Telegram group of reading through these two books about dream searchers, kind of uh, in the vein of like teaching other people how to get to the point where you are, in the hopes of having meetups in the dream space, just just for giggles, just to have the experience of the expanded consciousness that kind of naturally comes we're trying to do something so beautifully out of the ordinary. Um, and so
And
that's
it
kind of,
seems so outlandish, but the thing is, I think people have been doing this forever. We just think it's outlandish because we have been taught that reality is one thing, and we're all coming from that paradigm instead of, oh, wow, you're a soul, not a body. And, you've already done amazing, magical things.
so that's a good transition into the next thing I wanted to talk about. So you're very much aware that I've been upping my meditation and specifically using the meditations of Dr. Joe Dispenza, the kind of take control of my consciousness, which left to its own devices, one evening I might see a portal open in a room. The next evening, ultra terrestrials are coming through the wall and attempting to make contact with me. So I needed something to kind of help me control my thoughts in the day to day, but also kind of tighten up my brain patterns in these liminal moments, like falling asleep and things of that nature, and frankly, to manifest interesting things, right?
Yeah.
And we don't have to go into any kind of specifics, but in the month of February, I had manifested uh, a significant amount of new experiences. And one of the things that I wanted to point out with kind of sharing is I literally had nothing to do with the good things coming other than meditating with the intent to be grateful and thankful for and be embody my future self and my emotions from the heart center being this magnet that brings things to me without having to do things for it. And you've had a similar situation, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's been awesome.
And so you've manifested some interesting money, and but the one thing that you've manifested recently that just blew my mind was you were you were changing your body and you're preparing yourself in the future to enter contests for fitness, bodybuilding, whatnot. And one of the things that you need to know how to do, and it's very unique to each individual, is posing. But you live in a very rural area, and even that, you were able to bring forward a potential posing coach within a few hours of yourself. Is that correct?
Yeah. It was so bizarre because there was this girl who had been coming into my gym for several months, and I'd seen her, and I'd never talked to her before. But this one night I started doing this particular exercise that I knew my coach had told me, to set my hips back further when I did this particular exercise. So I actually just saw her doing it, and I said, "Hey, if you set your hips back further, you're going to feel it more." And, you know, unsolicited advice, but I just was trying to be helpful. So
Right.
later that day, she stops me before I left and she said, "Hey, um, I just wanted to tell you thank you." And anyway, she competes in NPC bodybuilding in the bikini for competes bikini category. So
Okay.
anyway, she said that she had just moved to my small town a few months before, and that so I started asking her about her coach and all that, and she said, "Well, my coach is, a couple hours away, but she has a studio. I go in, she teaches posing, and anyway, yeah. So I manifested. I had been walking into my new life, imagining myself up on stage winning, and then all of a sudden, I have a posing coach just like that, which I could have hired somebody online, but it's a whole lot different to be in person with somebody where they can show you the ins and outs, because posing is really smoke and mirrors. So
Right.
it really helps somebody to actually see your body.
Right. And see you in a little nerdy artist talk here, global illumination in the
Yeah,
here and now. So,
exactly.
so if my memory is correct, you had reached out to me probably like 2.5 weeks after I had really started going, and I had shared the meditations with you. So that would have been around the 17th of February, 15th to 17th of February. And we're at the 12th of March now. So a little less than a month. And you have manifested some pretty amazing things,
I
frankly.
know. Yeah. With the money, I was doing the change meditation, and I didn't realize beforehand I was supposed to pick something I wanted to change. So, what popped in my head is abundance. I need abundance. So, um, that was the word that popped in my head to change. And I sat there and went through the meditation, and the second I was done, because I was on my sofa, which is right near the door, which is right by my mailbox slot. I hear my mailbox slot. The mail comes in, and there's $1,500 in the mail.
There we go. I mean, and I want to emphasize to people that you really didn't have to do anything other than come into alignment with your future self, and these things came your way. And I know that there's just little like icing on the cake moments that you didn't even think about that had happened, and we can leave that at that in that description. But like for doing something less than a month and having the outcomes, what do you think makes the Dispenza meditations so thinking efficient?
Well, I think also for you and me, we're both familiar with reality transurfing,
Right.
because it's the same exact thing, more or less, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Except that Dispenza just goes, I mean, transurfing, I always like transurfing because it didn't require a meditation. It didn't require me to add any effort, hardly at all. And it was very effective. But I think the Dispenza, what sets Dispenza apart is that if, and I was not big into, oh my gosh, doing an hour-long meditation. Are you kidding me? No.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't really take off with Joe Dispenza's stuff, because I started it pretty soon after I did reality transurfing. I love his book, but I just couldn't commit to doing the meditations. But after I did, it was like, I think because I'm no longer vibing with who I am, I can actually almost lose my body in those moments and just become a part of the field. The,
Yeah.
you are becoming the quantum field. So
So
you're
do
tuning
you
into those, not vibrations, but those possibilities, I guess.
right? So do you think all the trauma work that you had done prior, like the year prior, clearing, finding that relative balance inside yourself, made you more receptive to sitting for an hour?
Yeah, because you don't realize how many, I don't know, unintegrated parts of yourself there are. I think each of us have way more unintegrated parts than we realize. And, people who come into this world with less karma and stuff, you can see it. They're good at making stuff happen in their lives. So I think the more that you pull that energy back, and it's the same with dream work, people who say that they don't dream, usually they don't have the energy to dream.
Right.
Your energetic body is your emotional body. So you have to clear up those emotions and get it running to have the power to fuel your dreams or your dream recall. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's exactly the answer. That's why Castaneda, even though they're sorcerers and stuff, they emphasize during recapitulation, which is going through all your memories and pulling out all the emotions that are stuck.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting how everything kind of has a little piece of the puzzle, and like if you can take it all and kind of just clean up your energy, one of the things that I noticed that really helps me bring things to me is literally not watching TV, not death scrolling through Instagram, and not watching. I'm a basketball fanatic and not watching sports, frankly. And I noticed that if I even watch a 5 minute clip of guys dunking, literally it will affect the quality of my meditations the next day. And so I guess that's one thing I want to share with everybody is like, if you want maximum results, you really have to make an effort to clean up your energy. And I really think that whatever you believe will happen. So if for you cleaning up your energy is drinking the best water, eating organic, and that's what makes you feel like you're in alignment, then that's going to help you bring stuff forward. If you think pizza uh, and I don't know, hamburgers and hot dogs are your go-to and they're like going to put you in alignment, I literally think you're so powerful that you can even clean up that energy. Now, it won't make your body sexy, but you can even use that to manifest. I like to think of it like looking in a mirror. Like, if I look in a mirror and I see my hair is all disheveled, I don't reach out matter to matter and comb the mirror.
No.
I comb my hair. I get my energy straight, and then everything works out better. So did you have anything like that? Any negative like things that like kind of called to you that you got to make an effort to say, no, I'm here doing this thing right now.
Yeah. I find I'm trying really hard to protect my energy, especially as I'm watching you do it, because you're setting hard boundaries like the second that you're seeing something doesn't resonate with you. And I really admire that because it takes knowing yourself to know what's good and what's bad for you. But I stopped watching the news. I used to be pretty into politics, and I realized it's just a circus and it's designed to suck your energy out. And if I let it in, it makes me sick. I actually had a dream where after I had sat and like scrolled through fear porn and reading all these news articles and getting upset, my dream had me eating shrimp that had sat on the counter all day, and or maybe for days. I just knew it was filthy and it was disgusting, and I was upset about how dirty it was. But then I picked it up and I ate it, and I mean, as I did, I was like, why did I do that? And I knew I was going to be sick, so I'm sitting there trying to make myself vomit to make it come up.
Yeah.
And my dream was literally telling me, you knowingly ingested that shit, get it out.
Right.
And yeah, so I've tried to be pretty discerning since, because I've noticed, even with music, like I love music. I love almost all genres. I mean, I'm not into house
Right.
music. Sorry, it's just not my thing. But you know, it's vibey. I used to have like my little angry playlist, or I'm in a dark mood playlist. I used to do all that. And the thing is that the more you do that, the more you are putting yourself in that. If I'm sitting there listening to sad music, I'm going to make myself sad. I will have a bad, shitty, sad day. So even if I really liked a song in the past and still would rock out to it now, I know that it's probably not in my best interest. So I've let a lot of music go.
Yeah. Same here. I absolutely love one of my favorite experiences ever was going to watch Tool for the Lateralus concert in Austin with my brother. And there was this moment where everybody was singing this particular song together. And at the end of it, Maynard's like, Austin, thank you for reminding us why we do this. And while it was a beautiful moment, a lot of times I find that some of the frequencies in the Tool music will then lead me to listen to other things that, and so I think it's because my sensitivity has raised that I can't bombard myself with things like Tool may not necessarily be inherently bad, but like listening to Eminem right after that because I love his stuff too will be bad. Like, yeah, newsflash: Eminem's music has a frequency in it that will destroy your ability to like focus. I don't.
Yeah, I had to let him go because
Yeah,
conspiracy stuff, but
yeah, and
it's really changed the way I view it, and I don't want to let that in. So
yeah, and so just being aware of like, I even like some of the Nordic Scandinavian bands that come out that I actually don't know what they're saying when they sing. It's not like the death metal. It's more like the folk music.
mhm.
But yeah, even that I can't let in. So I have to be very discerning. So I find myself listening to like a lot of Native American drum and flute, or didgeridoo, or some hand drum stuff, and yeah, everything kind of flows better.
It's
Well,
funny. I know because TV is the same too. It's like I feel like I have to be discerning about what I watch, or if I watch something and I know it's going to be bad, I have to make sure that my inner observer is on,
right,
so that way I can
setting,
see the reversals and I'm not letting things implant into my subconscious.
right, setting the attention, knowing that they're going to try to connect to you through your emotions to get an inroads. And
Hmm.
like you said, being that observer, that third person observer, and saying, "Oh, I see that trick right there. I see that trick. Nice one frame shot you did there." All that kind of stuff. And most people are completely unaware of the nonsense. And we see it playing out even in the truth community. Like, there seems like there's been a new crop of truthers that have sprang up in the last 2.5 years, right? And they know that COVID was, bogus. But then they fall for all the other things that come up immediately the second that COVID ends. And I will be very thankful when they're able to drop into the third person observer, pull back and say, "Oh, this is the same flavor ice cream. It's just in a different package." So that's
Anything they're presenting to us, yeah, it in the mainstream media, and that doesn't just mean news, because how many people don't watch the news anymore? They just read Reddit. So,
right.
or, you know, but anything that's going to be presented to you, especially if some people are being censored on those platforms, then you should know that it's not the truth, period.
Right. And so one of the things that I think that meditation gives you is it enables you to kind of look at something and say, "Oh, you slide dog. I see what you're doing. You're trying to get me to point my energy, which wherever you set your intention, your focus is where your energy flows, right?
Yep.
So if I can get all these people who are completely unaware of their power, which is their attention and their intention, to look out there, and I can siphon off their energy for whatever, then they're less able to create change in their own lives for their tribe. And I think that's one thing that people could learn through dream work. I think they could learn it through like reading Becoming Supernatural and doing the meditations, and they could learn it through reading the 4 books of reality transurfing and going through Bootsy's old videos on transurfing, and all these different like little things can help break the spell that we're under.
Yep.
So one thing that you and I are both interested in is the law of one. And there's this idea in in there about the 51% positive versus negative. You have to be like 51% service to others as opposed to 51% service to self. Now,
Well, but the service itself, they have to be like almost, I want to say it's like 99% charged. It's, well, I guess that's for the polarity of the earth.
right. And so a lot of people believe that the cutoff date was sometime in the past and that we were in the positive frame, and that what we are seeing now is the slow transition of everybody awakening to the lies, albeit it seems to you and I to be egregiously slow. But nonetheless, it's like more people are looking into different aspects of conspiracy as fact. They're getting into different modalities that, like we've covered now. They're getting into lucid dreaming, out of body experiences, whatnot. So, predictions are never necessarily good to be concrete, but do you see like things getting better over the next few years as more people wake up?
Yeah, I think everything that's happening now, no matter how we want to look at it or how it's being spun, is really just humanity seeing the collective shadow. Because there's no way to wake everyone up unless they see the bad shit that's been hidden under the surface. You
Right.
cannot clean something out if you don't dig deep. So this stuff has to come out. If all this stuff happening in Hollywood and with our politicians and human trafficking type stuff.
Right.
These are all things that have happened for a long time. And if they don't pull the stuff out and bring it up to the surface, how is it going to heal? How is humanity? I mean, it's so easy to call something a conspiracy when we don't have like concrete evidence, or it's not being shown in the outlets that we've trusted forever. But I think it has to come to the surface and it has to be so blatant. So it's going to be an ugly purge. You don't get healthy until you treat till the symptoms come to the surface and you have to treat it.
100%. So one of the things that I think we can do as service to others is actually work on our own trauma, our own bullshit.
Yeah.
And by doing that and clearing ourselves, then and doing the meditations, then it actually helps the neighbors. Like I live in an apartment, and so I have like 5 households that surround me. So when I'm clearing my nonsense out and I'm in alignment and I do meditations, it actually calms down this 6-block apartment space. And I say this to encourage people who think, how can I be of service to others? Well, that's a really good start. cleaning out your own trauma.
It is, because it can also go the other way. If I think that I have to be service to others, but I'm so stuck in this, it has to be this way and I have to do this and do that, then I'm actually really not in service to others. I'm in service to self. So it's really coming from a genuine place, and cleaning up my own energy is a service to others. And yeah, we anchor the vibration, and that those books, again, the Dream Searchers books, talk about how it takes one person with a high vibration to change the vibration of an entire city. So we hold the frequency. You're more powerful than you believe.
For sure. I recently had a dispensa meditation where I dissolved into the creator and realized that this joker I call Lehman, who I'm infatuated with, I love myself, is just a character, just a cheap imitation of just how magnificent the soul truly is. And so I like in this meditation, I released Lehman, and I was in my radiance as a eternal soul. I knew without a doubt that I had never been born and I have never died, in spite of the fact of being housed in multiple meat suits throughout the ages. And it was one of those meditations where you get up from and you're not worried about anything anymore. And but I've noticed that since I had that meditation, things tried to come at me to get me off uh, my path of I have I've had some experiences at night where I feel like something is trying to interrupt my dream patterns in order to kind of put me under a spell of not remembering what I had learned in that meditation. Uh, so, have you ever had anything like that happen where, like, because you've made forward progress working on yourself, that then, like, almost immediately something came or an obstacle showed up, and that you had to kind of put what you learned immediately into practice, like almost like the next day?
It's like it's that balancing force again, right? It's things trying to balance. And I think that when we accept so much good, it's like, oh, hey,
Right,
this this has to have a chance to show you the other side of that as well. So yeah, I can't think of anything specific, but it does
right,
happen. I can tell you that for sure.
right,
One thing that I do is I do this little 5-minute meditation every single day. It's through Lisa Renee, and she's the founder of the Ascension Glossary, but it's called the 12th Dimensional Shield, and it's
right,
just connecting to cleaning out your chakra column, your descending and ascending current, and anchoring it to the earth and to the heavens, and just putting yourself in a cylinder of light, just your protective shield. And I do feel like since I've been doing that daily, that does help protect my energy quite a bit. And when I don't remember, that's when I have bizarre dreams, like with Thor, which I'm not
right,
getting into on here, but where I feel like something is trying um to either siphon my energy or implant. Yeah.
right. Yeah, that's a pretty good. Yeah. So, do you work with anybody with their dreams or with their trauma? Do you have any kind of modalities that you would like to share with people?
Yeah. I recently I read about this through Robert Moss. So he does like shamanic dreaming. And I tried it a couple times on myself where you do dream reentry. So you can use any dream that you had in the past, especially if it was very vivid. And if you dream of a specific place over and over again, like my childhood home, I had a period of about 4 years where every night I dreamt I was in my childhood home. And I thought maybe it was just because, well, I was born in that house, my mother died there, and I lived there till I was 18 years old. But before that, I used to dream all over the place. But then during this certain period of time, that's the only place I dreamt. So this is where your map is pretty small sometimes, right? But I listened to Robert Moss talk about it, and I'd already been into soul fragment retrieval. I'd already started that, and he has play shamanic drum beats, and then you can use a very vivid dream to re-enter the dream state. Basically, you're in a theta brainwave though, so you're not dreaming, you're awake, but you've dropped your
From beta
brainwaves
to
down. Yeah. Yep. So you're pretty deep, and then all of a sudden you're in the dream place. So
mm,
I'd had two very vivid dreams in the house where I had a lot of sensory input, where one of them, I just happened to be in my old bedroom and I could see the light coming in from the window. and I could smell the desert air and I could feel the carpet. So I was so happy to be there that it was an emotional response because the smell and the feel of the warmth on my skin, and seeing the light and then feeling the carpet. So I laid down and I fell asleep in the dream. That's all I wanted to do. So because of that, I used that as a portal into the dream. And I knew I had to have a soul fragment in this house somewhere, and
Right.
maybe multiple, because I had so much time there.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know what to expect. I was thinking it was going to be like a childhood memory, like maybe something from when I was like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And I walked through every room, and it ended up being, I ended up walking into the bathroom, and it surprised me. It was actually a memory with, drug abuse, and I had forgotten all about it. But apparently, I had fragmented my soul in that spot. So
Gotcha.
yeah, it was just bizarre though. It was not what I expected. But when I reintegrated it, I rarely dream of that house anymore.
That's very
So
interesting. So
yeah,
you help people
but I've done
walk
this
through.
with other people as well. Yeah. I have a friend who she stopped dreaming in 1987. Like
Right.
her dreaming just went offline, and she was a very active lucid dreamer before that. And she didn't know what had happened to just shut her dream life off. But she recalled the dream so vividly. And at the end, there was a mangled seal, like she had sealed off that part of her. So I did the same thing with her. It was very experimental because I had only done this with
Right.
myself on several occasions. I'd never done it with somebody else, but we did it, and I walked her through the dream. Well, she walked me through it basically, but I made her do things that she, like, at one point there was a pond, and the pond had like weird creatures in it, like, and it was mucky water. I made her reach in there and grab one out. And I mean, we had to kind of, like, she didn't want to do it, but like she visualized putting on gloves, and then she did it, and then she described what it was to me, and it was not what I was expecting. It was like this
Right.
cube like figure, and um anyway, it brought back the memories though of what had shut down her dreaming and why she felt like she didn't deserve to. So we were able to heal that, and she's dreaming again. So it's really awesome.
That's beautiful.
So
So, what would be the best way for other women who would like to contact you for such consultation? Would it be your Instagram account, Abstract Dreamer? I'll make sure
yep,
that's
Instagram.
in the notes. And is there anything you'd like to add before we finish up here?
No, but thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
For sure,
It's
for
been
sure.
fun.
Like it's such a unique modality, and I don't really hear too many people like trying to push the boundaries. Like you know, can we create a space where we can all meet at? Well, let's fuck around and find out, kind of deal. And I love
Yeah.
that kind of exploration and that experimentation, and especially something so universal as the ability to dream. So I appreciate you being here, and I'll talk with you once we're done. And I will make sure that everybody can find your Instagram. And what a great conversation with a friend. So, yeah,
Thank you, Leeman.
for sure. So, everybody, go check her out. And in the comments, let me know if dreaming is important to you and if you've had any interesting dreams. So thank you very much.